Some people think that God is a man. I think they think that man also wears, second century tunics and lives in a place called heaven. In January, I preached about how God has changed and the theology that arises from that place, that everything is always changing. It's either coming together or coming apart or becoming a different thing. And that is a really creative force. The thing about time zones, though, and I know that doesn't seem related to those descriptions of God, but I'll tie it all together in just a second, is that they're weird. When I wake up in the morning, some other people are going to bed. That means that when I left my house this morning, I could know that Palm Sunday was already being observed in Syria, and that there was already a bombing at a church that killed 31 people who were remembering their teacher, a brown man rising up against empire, remembering the beginning of that end. So today, what's in my heart is a call for change, which in that way would be a call for God to appear in our world and to use our lives as that pathway. So I'm going to take a minute and then we'll do the rest. If you'd like to look at readings in the back of your hymnal for these moments, you can as well. In this place, with these people, I take this time for radical honesty. And what I call down from all the places, what I call in from all the corners, what I call up from all the bottoms is change. To say that our world needs a change. We need peace with one another, and love with one another, and safety with one another. And we need to be very, very clear that that change is up to us. I thank you for all these things, and I say amen. I want you to think back to a time when you didn't know how to do something. I know a ton of you are experts, so you're going to have to think way back. But you can do it, right? So you're thinking about when you were learning to ride your bike or learning to write your name in cursive. Do you remember practicing for your driver's license? Do you remember being a learner? We know that everything has a beginning, right? So we heard the story of the Spider Woman and the 4 worlds and So Tuning and everything that they were talking about making and changing. And at first, in this creation story, the beginning is an idea, right? The worlds are in Creator's mind. And there's one way this exploration could go, where I tell you that every journey of 1,000 steps begins with 1, right? And you know that. But I'm actually not going to do that today. Because even the youngest person among us has already begun 1,000 things. You know about that. In the story of the Spider Woman, the beginning goes swimmingly. A solid world, people, languages, a connection, and a mission. It's important for you to sort out how to connect with this story, though. If the sense of a creator figure works for you, That's good. For others of you, the idea of a God person doesn't serve to inspire or energize you. Most simply, a creator is a maker. And as you have begun things, you have also made things. You have even made a life. So if you need to recast the story a bit, you can be thinking of the source of your life. One important source, you're not going to be surprised when I say this, is your choices. As you make them one by one, you're creating something. You have other sources as well. The people with whom you're connected, your passions, your causes. Allow these sources to fuel your exploration this morning. Our friends at Merriam-Webster offer this idea of a second chance. It's an opportunity to try again after failing. One time, they say. You know and I know that sometimes we have to try again after more than one time. But it's the dictionary. They're being conservative. And so today, trying after failing is what I want you to take hold of. Sometimes you'll fail. And sometimes you'll wonder how to try again. What am I supposed to do? How do I try again? That you should try again? Well, that might be immediately obvious, but immediately after failure, you may lose some steam. In the Spider-Woman text, the problems arise when people focus on differences and fight. A problem that has proved over the ages intractable, seemingly unsolvable. Some of the time you will fail even after you have given it all the muscle that you've got. What next? Well, the word is Akilandeshvari. She's a Hindu goddess who rides on the back of a crocodile. And the fact is, she's always broken. In fact, in Sanskrit, her name has a double negative. She is the goddess who is never not broken. That's a pretty powerful way to put it, isn't it? She's not broken, though, like the point of a pencil or the pane of a window. This is different. What all myths have to deal with, Joseph Campbell suggests, is transformation of consciousness. You have been thinking one way, you now have to think a different way. Consciousness is transformed either by the trials themselves or by illuminating revelations. Trials and revelations are what it's all about. Akilandeshvari is broken in the way of a fire extinguisher under glass. When there's an emergency brake here, she's broken in the way of an emergency flare. These are broken open. First a struggle, then breaking, then fire. And that's light. Akilandeshvari derives her power from being broken. In flux, pulling herself apart, living in different constant selves at the same time, never becoming a whole that has limitations. There is power for you there as well, to begin to return from failure and to try again. You must choose. In the Spider-Woman text, the first world ended with fire. The second world spun out of control and froze. Both of these kinds of failure probably resonate with each of us. Are you ready for the first thing to do? The first thing to do in order to come back from failure is difficult at times. It's nothing. It's pretty easy not to know exactly what to do. Sometimes you can feel stuck between two lackluster choices. Sometimes nothing is appealing. One of my clergy colleagues, Eric, is the dad of the most adorable toddler named Isaac. He tells this story about parenting choices. Isaac continues to attack radiators with his face every time he sees one. How do you make a 2-year-old boy much, and he put so many muches I had to take a few out, more afraid of getting hurt without getting hurt being an important part of the lesson? Or even better, what's the best way to be sure that your 2-year-old never gets hurt ever again for the rest of his life and still has a normal, wonderful life? You can tell that it doesn't really work that way, right? I'm going to have a little drink of water. The intentionality that it takes to choose to be broken open instead of broken down is not a rush job. It includes a call to focus and quiet. Meditation can help us cultivate that quiet amid distraction and challenge. Sometimes people wonder how being still can do anything. To this, the Buddha said, "Come and see." You have to try it. And this is what I mentioned earlier. We'll be working on it a little at a time. Chogyam Trungpa's checklist of 6 body parts includes these: seat, legs, torso, hands, eyes, and mouth. Begin there. Commit to being instead of doing as one of the ways you adapt to new beginnings. So the first thing, do nothing. After stillness comes action. In the story of the Spider Woman, Su Tunang made yet a third world. But no, that one didn't come out successfully either. And I am not going to tell you that those kinds of perennial struggles are valuable for their own sake. Some people say that. Well, it's good for you. Or not. Right? It's not like that. Though you may find value in them, it's up to you to design and to decide that. Sometimes what there is to do is hang on. Do you remember about the goddess I was telling you earlier? How she is never not broken? Akhilandeshvari rode on the back of a crocodile. This is significant for 2 reasons. One is that the crocodile represents our reptilian human brain, the part that signals fear. Then it is probably one of the most reasonable features of humans that when they find dreams, ideas, and hearts broken, we all are, sometimes afraid. The other thing is that when you think of crocodiles, you probably think of their exceptionally toothy grins. This isn't actually where their power lies. Actually, they grab their prey and they spin it around until it is disoriented and confused. That's how they're able to overcome animals that may be much stronger and much faster than they are. This is Akhilandeshvari's companion animal. She is never not broken, but she does not allow fear to immobilize her. She uses her fear and allows the spinning not only to confuse her, but also to bring her to the brilliance of the rivers of life. Eric Stoneberg describes her beauty this way. Akhilandeshvari is sometimes described as a spinning, multifaceted prism. Imagine the hope diamond twirling in a bright, clear light. The light pouring through the beveled cuts of the diamond would create a whirling rainbow of color. The diamond is whole and complete, and because it is fractured, it creates more diverse beauty. Its form is a spectrum of whirling color. What are you meant to do with that knowing? You'll sometimes fail. You'll meet failure with stillness. You are already always never not broken. And it is part of your shine. What do you do with that knowing when you need to is you let your heart come along. You allow it to rise from its sleep, from its protected place. You peel away the layers of protection, and you allow your heart to help you do the thing of which you dream. Now extend that further. Try to remember that not everyone has been taught how to befriend themselves. Not everyone knows how to find the beauty in their own brokenness. Remember that some of your days will be better than others. I'm pretty sure that that's a children's book that I'm going to end up writing. Some days are better than others. In the story of the Spider Woman, the world was destroyed 3 times, which is a lot for a whole world. Always in this story, though, there is a cycle of rebuilding. After the 3rd destruction, the people had a long journey to the 4th world, down many rivers and around many islands. Sometimes people who rely on you to know what's possible also need to know that the journey is long. Even though they might not come here to be in community, they also need to have you be there for them. Right now you're asking yourself, well, you might be, I don't know. Asking yourself, what does that mean anyway? What does she mean by that? I'm going to give you a pro tip. Transformation happens in the listening. This means that you lighten other people's burdens when you listen to them. You connect yourself by listening. When you are listened to, you know that your own burden is lightened. And you allow the future to unfold and grow in unexpected ways when you listen. Do you remember that the people that the Spider Woman made had a soft spot for connecting with Creator? What if that soft spot resonates for us today as the determination and openness to listen? I mean, I think it's a good quality. Maybe we should work on it, but no. So, to really listen, you're going to have to remember a couple of things. One is that you're going to have to give up already always knowing what people are going to say. Have you ever felt that way? You go into the conversation and you already know what they're going to say. So when I watch a movie, I go into a different world, right? Whatever's created there. And I don't say, oh, that's not how that works. Physics is different. It's a suspension of disbelief, right? I save my disbelief for later because I just paid $10. Your conversations are worth more than $10. It's okay if you suspend your disbelief, right? It's also the opposite of staying open and soft to the person you're listening to if you already always know. I'm going to tell you how it works. It works like this. You listen to the person as though this is your only chance. The words they are sharing are like information on one of those scrolling signs on the side of the highway. If you don't get it now, the moment will pass. But you know what? Actually, that's not even pretend. This is your only chance. Even if you've heard this story before, the speaker's experience of you as a listener is happening in the moment before you. You'll also have to remember that sometimes people don't know what you know. You already know that you, and all of us, are never not broken. That it's possible that we choose to be broken open instead of broken down, and for our broken pieces to be part of our beauty. But sometimes people will just be afraid, or cranky, or other things. You know the weak spots of the people you're friends with or close by you. Sometimes people get confused about listening. They think that if they listen, take the information, ask clarifying questions, express understanding or empathy, that it's the same as agreeing. You already allow the TV to advertise for you. That commercials go by, and you don't say yes to each one. Sometimes, I'm going to tell you, true confessions, I watch infomercials for fun. I know, I love the one for the square copper skillet, and if you call now, you can get a frying basket, and it's great. But I don't say yes to it. It's because I don't need a square copper skillet, and I don't have any place to put it in my apartment. But sometimes I watch it anyway, just to marvel at skillet technology. You can make a pie right in there. On some level, you already know, absolutely, the difference between those two things, between paying attention and between saying yes. You know that if you listen to understand, and in order to frame your reply, you'll offer people a space of yes, where you accept them, right? You affirm their broken pieces. It might even be possible that they learn from you that we're all connected by our sources and by a really long journey, and that all of us together are never not broken. Together, by doing that, you can help the world find its healing and its beauty.